Welcome to worship at the McPherson Church of the Brethren. We are an open and affirming congregation that strives to be hospitable and attentive to all of creation. We do not always meet that goal, and we have our share of ups and downs. But in the midst of it all, we continue to listen to God's call on our individual lives and the life of this congregation. We continue to seek to follow Jesus, peacefully, simply, together. We are humbled you have chosen to worship with us. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sure this is on. It is. Okay. I'm Bud Taylor. I'd like to welcome you to our church service this morning here at the McPherson Church of the Brethren. Do you have any announcements or visitors that you would like to introduce?
Do we have any visitors out in the lobby?
Apparently so. They're coming up now.
Alan Wagoner for the tiny house. I just thought I'd give a little update. To this point, it's shingled and the doors and windows are all in. The plumber is done. The electrician's about halfway finished. So I'll be lining up the man that will do the insulation and the sheetrockers here in the next couple weeks. And the man that's going to do the siding, he thought he would start in a couple weeks. So that's where we're at on the tiny house, but drive by. The Holderman Mennonites were there yesterday, so the roof is on their unit, and the Christian church, which is south of us, is framed up and waiting for the roof. So that's where things are at Peaceful Oak.
I would like to update you a little bit about a group that we have formed. Catherine, who gives me 58 words to say this, well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm probably over that right now, aren't I? Catherine said, why don't you try to think outside of the box a little bit on some of the things that the church is doing. So I did. I've thought, well, we have an RV, and I know a couple other people that have RVs, but there's a total of 10 of us in this area, 2 from Monitor, 8 from our church, that have RVs, and that's a recreational vehicle. And we're welcoming tent campers too, so Lynn, your chance will come. In May, we went to Marion County, or Marion Reservoir, and spent 2 days, and I think, 2 nights there. And last week we were at Canopolis, and we spent 2 to 3 nights there. It was HOT, as you would expect, and we thought, well, we'll spend the entire 2 days in our campers, never get out. But we had, the great storm that hit us, but it cooled things off. So there we go. So anyone that has an RV or a tent camper that would like to join us, we will be doing some things, and I will have announcements for it. But it's a good way for people that have something in mind and common interest to get together in the church. So thank you. Now let us have our morning service.
morning. I invite you to rise and join in our responsive call to worship and remain standing for our opening song. God gathers us here into this community called faith, where the hungry are served first, where the thirsty drink life's water. God welcomes us here into this sanctuary of grace, where the naked are clothed in robes of hope, where the stranger is embraced. God reunites us here, sisters and brothers, in this family called love, where the imprisoned receive visitation and the sick are cradled in God's justice and peace. Please be seated. And would the children come forward for the children's time with Barbara?
And to all those kids out there, I see a lot of kids out there, just big kids. So today we're going to be talking about a verse in Matthew. Hey, thanks for joining me. And I'll read some of it to you. The Son of Man will come in glory, and he will be a king sitting, like a king sitting on a throne. All the people of the world will come to hear him. To the people he will say, "You are blessed, for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me." Those people will ask the king, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or give you food and water? When did we welcome you or give you clothing? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" So I have a story to share today, and it's about a little girl, and she was having a birthday. It was Josie's birthday. Josie got some nice presents, but Annie Mae's was the best of all. Annie Mae's hair was gray, and it sparkled in the morning sunlight, and her face beamed with love as she gave Josie her gift. She gave Josie a gift of a wish. And that's just what Josie had always wanted. Josie thought, and then she says, I wish to be rich and happy. Annie Mae smiled and told Josie this: plant a little garden, watch it slowly grow, and your wish will then come true, much sooner than you know. Before Josie could ask her how a garden would make her rich, Annie Mae was gone. Josie got lots of seeds and bulbs and planted her garden very well, for she wanted to be rich and happy. She pulled weeds and watered her garden and kept it looking neat and lovely. Mr. Prickett from across the alley walked by to admire her flowers, but Josie was too busy to notice. Josie worked very hard to get lots of good vegetables so she could sell them in the market for lots of money. After all, her garden was supposed to make her rich. Some little children came by. One of them accidentally stepped on a plant, and Josie yelled at them to go away, and she worked even harder. Annie Mae visited one day and said, "How is your garden growing?" Josie excitedly showed her the beautiful flowers and the juicy vegetables almost ready to be picked. And Annie Mae told Josie this: give 3 times to someone somewhere, and then you'll find your wish will come true. Josie thought for days about what Annie Mae's riddle meant. Old Mr. Pritchard came by, and so she showed him her flowers and spent time talking with him. She'd never really done that before, but he seemed so interested. Josie then saw a note in the newspaper about a soup kitchen that needed garden vegetables for their meals. She got a huge sack full of vegetables from her garden for the soup kitchen. She'd never done that before either, and it felt good. Josie asked the children if they wanted seeds from her plants to take home and plant the next year. She taught them how to be gentle and how to care for the little plants so that they would grow. She'd never really paid much attention to the little kids, but she was eager to show them what she'd learned. Annie Mae showed up one more time to ask some questions. She said, "What do you have?" she asked. "Lots of food and lots of friends," replied Josie. "It sounds to me like you have much more than so many people do. You must be rich. But how do you feel?" asked Annie Mae. Josie smiled in return. "Looks like to me you're happy," she said, "just as I promised, rich and happy." So Jesus tells us that when we give to other people, we give back so much. And when we give to other people, that is like giving to Jesus and to God, and that's what we are expected to do as followers of Christ. So today, I don't have vegetables that can make you rich, but I do have seeds, and these are dill seeds. And I'm going to hand you a packet. Do you want 2 or 3? Do you like to flower? Like to plant? You are not only going to find out that these dill seeds are going to make you happy as you share the beautiful, have you ever seen a dill plant before? Okay. You're also going to discover it's going to give you something else. You know what it's going to give you? They're creepy crawlies. They're going to give you caterpillars. And when those caterpillars are in a chrysalis, they're going to come out to be beautiful butterflies. And I hope that by planting the seeds, you're also going to be able to give to your world around you too. Not only are people going to think these are beautiful in your pot or in your garden, but then you're going to also enjoy the blessing of the butterflies. And to remember, when we do something for others, we're actually doing it for God. So thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your continued financial donations. You may give online at macbrethren.org. That's maccobb@macbrethren.org. If you are worshiping with us in person, you may place your gift in the offering box at the back of the sanctuary. Just slip it through the slot in the top of the box. Or you may mail your gift to the church office at 200 North Carey Street, McPherson, Kansas 67460. Or hand deliver your check to the church office. Just push it through the mail slot at the Education Building. If you join our worship from afar, please donate to local needs in your area. Thank you for sharing.
Makes me want to go get my flute out. I bet you didn't know I had that flute tucked in the closet. I wanted to just highlight that worship team has been working hard this summer to bring to you and flesh out some of the initiatives of strategic plan. So Marty and his team were, I saw them somewhere, were gracious enough to come and share with us about their anti-racism study, because strategic plan has an emphasis on justice. And later in August, Al, you don't know this, but outreach team will be doing a wrap-up on the tiny house and be showing pictures and talking about housing insecurity and what that means for many people, not only in McPherson, but in our nation. In August, we will also be hearing from a combination of folks. It will be Shane Kirshner and Kendra Flory and a couple people you don't know, somebody from Dick Arboretum, somebody from Bethel Mennonite Church, who are all involved in something called Common Ground. And so you will hear about that and relating to our creation and bringing that to our children in public schools. We will be touching base on that. So we're just trying to bring you some things. We'll be talking about children disaster service before the training happens at district conference, and just lifting up, like Bud says, you get ideas and how we connect and how we hear each other and how we find our common emphases, and sometimes we do it by RVing. And so when you have ideas, Strategic Plan has always said, don't wait. When you have an idea and you want to go with it, run with it. Start talking about it, and let's see where we go from there. So just some things that are coming up that I'm excited about. And I just wanted to emphasize, thank you, Barbara, for the book, because I think what it reminds us, I always... I'm going to backtrack a little. I always question, like during the pandemic, I thought, okay, should we be doing children's stories when we were broadcasting during the pandemic? And absolutely yes. And I can tell you, and Barbara has probably experienced this, I know that Doug Wine as a teacher has experienced this, I know that Don Hoffman has experienced this. You don't know who's flipping through cable TV. And there are kids who are flipping through cable TV on Sunday morning, and it is not uncommon for kids to say, Mrs. Wagner, I saw you on TV, or Mrs. Hoffman, I saw you on TV, or I was just at Walmart the other day, and I had a clerk who kept looking at me while I was checking out, and I thought, okay, do I have it? I don't know what's going on here. And she said, I think I know you. And so we introduced ourselves to each other, and as we started to talk, I thought, okay. And I said, well, I'm a pastor at the Church of the Brethren. She goes, that's it. That's how I know you. And I thought, okay, we don't know who's listening. We don't know who's watching. We don't know whose world is being expanded, who are learning things about things they might not know. So I have a huge commitment, especially to our children, that I know are listening and watching and paying attention. And that example of Josie in the book this morning is the perfect example that we can all hear. And I think sometimes we should just stop with children's story. Because enough said, right? It's simple and it's to the point and it gets to what we're talking about. But that story of Josie, just act on it, do it. God is saying in the scriptures, okay, give a cup of cold water. Go visit somebody in prison. Because whatever you're doing to that person you're doing it to, then you're doing the work to which I have called you. This morning we are blessed to have Magnals and Tina Burke-Holder say yes to bringing us information about ministries that they are involved in. And I know that Paul and Nancy and Tina, I know all three of them have a heart for doing, for rolling up your sleeves and not just talking about it, but actually doing it. And so I invite you into their experience this morning and the things they have to share. And we're all busy, but these three people have had extra interesting weeks in their life. So I want to say a super thank you, given all that's been going on in your personal lives, that you were willing to be with us this morning to share. So I would invite you forward at this time.
I'm Nancy Magnal. For those of you who may not know me, my husband Paul is here with me, and you'll be hearing from Tina in a little bit. You can see the scripture that's in your bulletin this morning. I'm just going to read it. It's a familiar one. It says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" And Jesus replied, "Truly, I say to you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." We're so pleased to have this opportunity to be with you this morning and to share a little bit about our experiences with prison ministry. And I really appreciate the scripture that Catherine chose for this morning because it's one of my favorites. And I would add to it Hebrews 13:3, where it says, "Continue to remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as though you yourselves were suffering." Paul and I are members of the church's outreach team, along with Jerry and Kendra Bowen, and Ann Stover, and Tina Burkholder, who you'll hear from shortly. When the church adopted the Jesus in the Neighborhood strategic plan, our team asked ourselves, what are some things that we are already doing here in this church that might fit in this plan? And then what are some additional things that we might be able to consider doing? And when we looked at the goal of engaging in service and peacemaking, we felt that the prison ministry opportunities that we already were involved with should be more widely promoted and encouraged in the congregation. So we currently partner with Offender Victim Ministries in Newton, which offers various opportunities to interact with those who are imprisoned. Prior to us moving from Iowa to McPherson 6 years ago, for several years I met weekly with the women who were incarcerated in our local Bremer County Jail in Waverly, Iowa, for a conversation, a time of prayer, a short devotion, and sometimes some music. And Bremer County is a rural county, very similar to McPherson County. So you would assume that the number of women who might be in our local jail on any given Sunday would be few. However, the county had a contract with the federal government to hold federal prisoners who were awaiting transport to federal facilities. Also, they had an agreement with a much larger neighboring county to take overflow from their prison or their jail when they were full. And so on any given week, I might have just a few women, or sometimes I had more than 20 women in the group each Sunday, including undocumented women who were awaiting being sent to federal prison, after which they anticipated being deported from the country. The federal prisoners never knew how long they were going to be in our local jail. They just had to wait for the word that today you're going to be transported to another facility. So I might see them one Sunday, and that would be my only contact with them, or sometimes they would be there for weeks, sometimes for months. We had one young woman who was newly pregnant when she arrived at our jail. She was on her way to federal prison, but they let her stay until she delivered her baby some months later. So I got to know her really well, and she's one of the ones that I continue to have contact with to this day. I also was able to be part of a reentry team that worked with women who were being released from the Iowa Correctional Institute for Women. And we would partner with them, we would meet with them weekly to offer encouragement and accountability as they attempted to be successful in their life outside of prison. And so these opportunities led me to gain an understanding of some of the issues and the challenges that face the incarcerated and those recently released from prison. And it gave me a passion to advocate for them and for criminal justice reform more broadly. Sometime after we moved to McPherson, there was a little blurb in the bulletin one Sunday that was seeking volunteers to visit men in the Hutchinson Correctional Facility who didn't receive regular visits from friends or family. I was intrigued as I thought this would give me a chance to continue some of the work that I had begun in Iowa. So I approached Paul with the idea that maybe we could do this as a couple. While he had heard a lot about my experiences that I would share going to the jail, I I wasn't sure that he would be on board on doing it himself. So I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about our experiences and what it's been like for him, and also how the program called M2 works.
Yes, my experience is not nearly as extensive as Nancy's, although I have visited several people that we've known in jail or in prison over the last 10 or 15 years. And as with many other programs, I was a little bit apprehensive about committing to being a partner in the M2 program, not being familiar with interactions with those kind of individuals. But the Match 2 program, which matches volunteers from the community with someone in prison, with the sole purpose of trying to develop relationships between those who are inside the prison and with those who are outside the prison walls, is probably a very good program to be involved with. Now, as a volunteer, you are committed to visiting your partner once a month. And what we do is basically to talk to them. We do share food. We do have the vending machines that we can share some food with them that I know our particular individuals likes the burritos, so we always get him a burrito and something to drink. And also he takes one thing back to his room with him when he gets done, but also to provide encouragement to those individuals who are there. Our night is the third Tuesday of each month from 7 until 9. And this program does not allow us to have any other contact with these individuals. You don't get to phone them, you don't get to visit them, you don't have any letters or anything. It's just the once a month when we are there to talk to them. And so the question always asked is, what do you talk about? Well, to start with, you basically just sort of do the basic questions like you're developing any other relationship with anybody else. You start by talking about your family, about your work, and whatever else your partner wants to talk about. And in our particular case, we've been involved with our partner 3 or 4 years now. We'd have no problems with coming up with topics. He always has something. He always brings something that he's been reading or something he's watched or something of that nature, and he wants to discuss with us our opinion about what he's reading. And I think that's just great. We don't have to come up with the topics. He comes up with them for us. So that's good. Although, occasionally, we've had assignments. We said that's not something we know about, so we'll investigate that and we'll come back next month with some research that we've done about the topic that he's talking about, which is good. So like I said, it's never been really a problem to fill our time with the discussions about our things. Also, if things drag a little bit, I have played dominoes with him and I have played cards with him when that happens. I don't really like playing dominoes with him. He's way too much better than I am at that sort of thing, so I don't particularly care for that. But anyway, in the most recent meeting with him, the topic that we talked about was a course he was taking on trying to transition from prison life to his life outside. He's working through a series of workbooks on that transition. Our particular individual has been in prison for a long time, and it's going to be a very difficult thing for him to transition. So we are encouraging him to do this type of study to help him and facilitate that transition, to make that transition as easy as possible. And I know in working with other individuals that have been in prison, it's very difficult to do that transition. And Nancy said that we are one of 3 couples in the church that are currently involved in the M2 program. And if you want to be a participant in that, we would be glad to answer any questions you might have, but I'll briefly tell you a little bit about what it takes to be involved in the program. First of all, you need to fill out an application with your basic data, and that can be done online. And it's to express your interest in the program. And then you will eventually get to a point where you need to attend a training for the program, which explains the operation of the program and the expectations of both you and your partner. It also talks to you about the do's and don'ts of being a partner, some things you should do and some things you probably shouldn't do, and the rules that you need to follow as being a participant in that particular program, and to make your visits go well. It is interesting, we've been involved for 3 or 4 years. It's interesting in talking to some of the other outside people that have been involved for as much as 25 years in this program. That's a long time, a long commitment, going once a month to visit various people. And also, once you are trained and once you're involved in the program, they require a 1-hour review each year to be recertified, to indicate your willingness to continue, and also to talk about changes in the rules and that sort of thing. And like most other volunteer programs today, when you're dealing with other people, you have to go through a background check. Everybody has to do it, so you have to go through that, where they fingerprint you and they do that sort of background check. That's not painful, but you still have to go through it. And once you have gone through gone through those various hurdles, and I don't think that they're that huge a hurdle, then the M2 coordinator will find a partner for you, and they will introduce you that first night, and then it's just a matter of getting involved. And the M2 coordinator will come around every once in a while at the session and see how things are going and ask if you have any questions and that sort of stuff. So it's not that difficult. And so, like I said, if you have any interest in doing that, you can talk to any one of the 3 couples, and we'd be glad to answer your questions. I think it's good for you to develop this type of relationship with your partner, which is meaningful both for yourself and also for them.
I will just add that the training you need to go to is only 2 hours, so it's not a huge commitment. And if you're wondering what it's like when we actually go and visit, we all go into one big room. They have small tables. You sit at the table with your partner, and there's all the other volunteers that are scattered around. It's not intimidating at all. Paul didn't mention who the other couples are, but it's Tina and Steve who have a match, and Kent and Bev Nye just started joining us a few months ago. But I think we have the potential in this congregation to have a lot more than 3 matches. So I really hope some of you will consider it. There are some other opportunities, if that doesn't seem like exactly what you're interested in doing, through Offender Victim Ministries, and I'm going to tell you about the Pen Pal program that some of us are involved with. In the spring of 2020, everything changed for all of us, as you know, and so all the visits at the Hutchinson Correctional Facility were stopped. They were suspended due to COVID, and we lost contact with our matches basically for 2 years. We just were able to resume the visits here a couple months ago. Sometime after the visits stopped, the director of visitation at the Offender Victim Ministries sent out an email indicating that anyone who was interested could sign up to be to be a pen pal with someone who's on death row. So I signed up for that. Tina signed up for that too, I know. And soon I was matched with Albert Jones at San Quentin Prison in California. This is Albert here, my friend Albert, as I call him now. I do have permission to share his name and his story. He often says, don't forget to tell people about your friend Albert. So he'll be very happy to hear that a group of you got to hear about him today. We've been writing at least monthly ever since we were matched 2 years ago. And this is really a very, very easy way that you can offer support to someone who is incarcerated. All it requires is for you to write at least 1 letter a month. You can do it anonymously if you want. You can go through Offender Victim Ministries and have the letters sent through them so that you don't have to reveal, your address or even your real name if you don't want to. I didn't have any problem. I'd already been corresponding with a lot of prisoners, so I didn't have any problem with allowing, Albert to know my name and address. But that is an option if you want to do it. And the only expectation is that you write your match at least once a month for a minimum of 1 year. Albert is quite a remarkable person. He has been incarcerated since he was a teenager for various things. But he is 2 courses away from completing his bachelor's degree. The education program was put on hold during COVID, but he's anxious to finish those 2 courses as soon as that education program resumes. He's written at least 10 books, one of which I have here with me, called Put on the Shelf to Die. He's had them published. He's gotten funding from people that are willing to help him publish his books. They talk about his life growing up in Compton, California, and his life in prison since he has been incarcerated, and really very interesting. He's currently working on another book about the realities of COVID in the prison system, so I'm anxious to read that one when he gets done with it. He always talks about his life is on the J plan, and that's his shorthand for the Jesus plan. He's a very optimistic person, despite the fact that he has looks like he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life unless something changes. He says Jesus is in control. He's on the J plan. Our friendship over the past 2 years has enriched my life greatly, and I think it's been meaningful to him too. And I know that Tina probably could share similar stories about her match. Interestingly, when I was compiling some information for this presentation, I went to the Offender Victims Ministry website to see what information they had about the Pen Pal program to make sure I was reporting things accurately. And it said it was a partnership with the Death Row Support Project, and I was not familiar with what the Death Row Support Project was, so I Googled it, and I was surprised to find that it's a program of the Church of the Brethren. I had no idea. I've been involved with it all this time, and I had no idea there was a connection to the Church of the Brethren, and it is managed by somebody in Liberty Mills, Indiana. So perhaps some of you are already familiar with it. If you're interested in the Pen Pal ministry, please just talk to me or Tina. You can visit the Offender Victim Ministries website, and it has the very simple application that you need to fill out. The last Offender Victim Ministries program I want to mention is the Prison Arts Program, and it provides a variety of creative programs at the Hutch Correctional Facility. These programs are run by volunteers, and they exist because people on the outside are willing to join people on the inside to share their passion for music, art, drama, and more. For example, just this week we received an email from Offender Victim Ministries that there is a presentation that's going to occur on July 1st at the correctional facility. 2 Bethel College students, under the direction of one of their professors, have been working with 7 incarcerated men to prepare a series of one-act plays, and they are going to have a presentation that is open to the public. I mean, you do have to register and have a background check in order to go in, but we're really looking forward to that. It says, much more than a theater course, this prison theater project is described as a cross-cultural experience for both the students and the inmates. If you have any artistic abilities and that you might want to share with those in the Hutch Correctional Facility, the Prison Arts Program is something you might want to think about. So lots and lots of opportunities where you can be involved with things that might fit your passions. Lastly, I want to mention that just today we started a Sunday school class focusing on prison ministry and criminal justice reform, using a curriculum prepared by Prison Fellowship. It's not too late to participate. Carolyn mentioned this morning she still has 5 copies of the books left. 4 now, okay. Going fast, get yours while they're still available. So check with Carolyn afterwards. You can join us by Zoom any Sunday at 8:45. These booklets were provided free to us from Prison Fellowship, and so all you got to do is ask Carolyn for one, and you can join us one Sunday, any Sunday that you want to, for the next 6 Sundays. So I hope that you might prayerfully consider these opportunities to be Jesus in the neighborhood for some of our incarcerated neighbors. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tina, who's going to talk to you about another thing we're doing.
Let's see, you can go ahead and put up that first slide. So I'm going to talk to you about the International Rescue Committee. They're going to put up some slides of it. How did I get involved in the International Rescue Committee? And actually, I'm not fully there yet. Steve and I still are needing to fill out the, there's a form that's going to want to, helps them with the background check. And we're going to have to dig through our files so that we can remember our former addresses. Yeah, we've been a few places. Just to mention one thing, though, about the prison ministry, the way Steve and I got involved in that was literally through the church bulletin. So we had just moved here. I was newly retired. I wanted to volunteer. I thought there'd be nothing here. And that was in the bulletin, and I said, there you go. That's one. And so you don't have to feel like you have a lot of experience or a lot to say to be able to do the prison ministry. You just show up because you care that there's somebody lonely that would just really like to have somebody come and visit them. We've been matched 3 times, and the newest one is our new person right now. And he literally asked us 3 times on our first visit, do you like coming here and doing this? And I just think he needed the reassurance that we actually did like coming and visiting. And definitely I need Steve to go with me, because if they're going to have to talk about sports and stuff, I'm not your person. So on the other hand, I really like my pen pal. He is an educated person with a master's degree in computers. He is the first person from India to have been put on death row in our country. And he is very eloquent in the things that he writes. He became a Christian in prison, and so he literally writes me sermons that he wants me to critique. It's a challenge. I said, this guy is way smarter than me. Okay, IRC. The reason I got interested in IRC is because actually I did 2 deployments with Children's Disaster Service that involved immigrants and refugees. And so I spent 2 weeks on the border with people coming from Central America seeking asylum. And that was a community that I was somewhat familiar with because of my teaching in Omaha and Grand Island. I had lots of immigrant children. I had lots of refugees there. But then also, I spent 2 weeks at Fort Bliss, where the Afghan refugees were being brought as families, big families. And so I also was very curious about what was going to happen to them after they left the base. They were literally flown straight to the base so that they could begin their paperwork, and then they would be released to whatever destination they had in mind if they had a support already for them. Children's Disaster Service, we just play with the children. We're there to support the parents by taking care of their kids while they're getting their business taken care of. Both of those places really brought back to home what I had seen as a teacher, that it's not easy being an immigrant. It's not easy being a refugee. There's so much to do in a brand new country, and you have to pretty much get those things taken care of fast. And that's where International Rescue Committee came in. I came back, I mentioned something to Nancy that I wish I could be part of the follow-up, and she said, check into this, and so I did. And come to find out, there is actually an office in Wichita. And so Steve and I have already done the training. So the first slide that you see up there is if you go online to the Wichita site, which is just basically putting in your zip code, it'll take you there. You can see what Wichita is doing, but this is a nationwide thing, and we actually help people in other countries too. So if you'll go on to the next slide, if you just Google International Rescue Committee, you'll come to the next slide. And there's so many different things that you can do if you're involved in it. You can do something as simple as meeting a family at an airport and getting them to their first place that they need to go to in Wichita. You can go up there for a day to drive people to appointments, doctor's appointments, maybe enrolling for school, getting school supplies. That's what you guys did, is you went up for a day and helped people get school supplies. And this is because they don't have their driver's license yet, or maybe don't even know how to drive. But some of the other things that really interested me after we did the training is a housing setup. And so a housing setup is done by a team, so you won't have to do it by yourself. And you meet at the location that IRS has found for them, and they do try to find housing together with other people of the same language so that they don't just feel like they're out there all alone in a new city. And you set up the house for them. So the furniture has been donated, the dishes have all been donated. It's just a matter of somebody setting up the house so that when they are picked up at the airport, they are driven to a home that is set up and ready to go. Sometimes they even make a meal for them to come home to. I thought that sounded like something that I would like to be a part of, and especially if we had several couples that are people here in our church that are doing it together. It takes about 8 people. So we would join people in Wichita, but we could also kind of team up and do that as a church. Another thing that is a little bit interesting to me, would be more intimidating, but you can volunteer to be a teacher. They have classes all times of day for them as far as language or just basic necessities at how to survive and get the things done that you need to when you're living in Wichita. And you don't have to have a teacher education background to do that. One of the people I visited with was a nurse. And she said they give you the curriculum, you go through it, you do the best you can. This is all volunteer people, so you're doing it because you want to be helpful. This are you getting the second slide up, page 2? Oh, it is. Oh, there you go. Okay, so if you look at the bottom, how to be a volunteer, these are the steps that you need to do to be able to be a volunteer. You need to, when it says search for volunteer opportunities, that actually comes after you're in the system. But the first thing you would do is you would apply and you would attend an IRC orientation. Very, very simple. You just contact through email the person in Wichita, and you would go to their 1-hour session. It was really mostly just helping you understand what IRC does and how you will find your volunteer opportunities once you're in the system. You would be interviewed by an IRC staff, and then of course you'll get the background check. So the first one, where it's searching for volunteer opportunities, I thought it seemed very easy to do. Steve and I haven't done one yet, but you literally just log in, you go to their site, and it's like they have a calendar of things that need to be done. And you see something that's on a day you have free, and it's an opportunity that you think, yeah, I'll do that. I'll go pick up somebody at the airport, or I'll help set up a house. And then you just click that, and it has a number of people that are needed for that job. And then as you click it, then the number goes down. So you can see, well, we need 2 more people. And if you have friends that are already involved in this column, and say, hey, you want to join us? So to me, it seemed very easy to do. It's something that you're in control of what you're doing and when you're doing it. If you want to know more about IRC and just all the different things they do, I was interested in it because of the refugee connection. That just happened to be something that I was interested in through my students, and then with my CDS volunteering, I wanted to know what I could do to help the process past what I had done just by welcoming the families to the country. Well, this next slide, page 3, you can see this information on their website, but it's actually pretty amazing that they also do a lot of work with women survivors of violence. They do a lot of work with gender-based violence. They help with healthcare facilities, many other things besides what I typically think of when I think of refugees and getting people settled. So I think both of the websites on slide 4 are in the bulletin, and they'll be in there for several weeks. You'll be able to get to the site just by Googling IRC, but you can also do it through the site that includes Wichita if you want to specifically see what Wichita is doing. And then you also have the email where you can contact the coordinator in Wichita to ask about any trainings that she has planned. I think that's it. I think that's it then.
Would you join me? We're trying to keep that information in front of you in your weekly newsletter that comes out, should ping into your inbox at 7 a.m. on Friday mornings. If you, for some reason, are not getting that bulletin and announcements and it's all kind of one package, then please call the office and let us know and we'll get that cleaned up for you. We have the capability to go in and actually see if it's landing in your inbox. We even have the capability to see if you didn't know, but you really did open it. So we can help you through that. If you're having problems with that and you don't have to be a member, we're happy to send that newsletter out to anyone and everybody. So these folks will be around after church. Again, thank you all, and ask questions. Asking questions is how we figure out what's needed. I invite you at this time to rise and join in singing our sending song. Seated. As you leave our fellowship and time together, I invite you to go out into your everyday lives, and as you have been fed, go and feed the hungry. As you have been set free, go and set free all those who are imprisoned in so many different ways. As you have been welcomed, welcome others, and may the blessings which you have received be the blessings that you go forth and share with others, now and forevermore. May it be so.